All right, welcome back, everybody. Jeremy Johnson with Journey Home Realty, back with part 2 of the January market update / 2024 prediction. And I left off talking about part 2 was going to be on how we believe we're going to get home sales up above 5 million. Some experts predict that it's going to be around 5.1 to 5.5 million. For perspective, we were in the 4.1 to 4.2 million for last year. And historically, it's at 5.2 to 5.3 over the last 10 years, excluding the unicorn years, 2020 to 2022. So as you can see on this slide here is one of the two reasons how experts believe we're going to get more houses on the market and more houses for sale to touch that above 5 million. And the first one is going to be, how do we get more sellers? And as you can see in this slide, and we've talked a couple of times as well before, you can understand the hesitance of sellers when 78.7% of homeowners are sitting in a mortgage rate less than 5%. So when interest rates touch the 7 and 8% in the mid-range of 2023, sellers, unless they physically had to move for a job or other life-changing situations, divorce or whatever the case may be, they weren't voluntarily jumping out of a 2, 3, 4% interest to jump back into a 7 or 8% interest. So the belief here in tying this all together is if we get into the 5% interest rates, if we're touching anywhere in the 5%, this is going to change this chart here. So if somebody's sitting in a 4 or 4.5 and they're talking about getting out of it to downsize or to upsize or whatever the case may be, it's not as big of a gap or big as a jump to jump back into something that's in the 5s versus something that was in the 7s. So the belief is, on this slide here, it'll show you Lance Lambert, the founder of Resi Club, kind of says it best. He says, we might be at a peak lock-in effect. Some move up or lifestyle sellers might be coming to terms with the fact that 3 or 4% mortgage rates aren't returning anytime soon. If the lock-in effect eases up in 2024, it could help boost existing home sales from the very low levels experienced in 2023. So what I was saying, but I always want to tie it into one of the experts and where we're getting this information. So that's a way to create more sellers and more houses on the market and get the home sales up. And then this last slide we talked about last year, how new builds were down. This next one really gets after new builds and shows you just in November of 2023, this is the National Association of Home Builders put out this comment here. It says the market currently requires a higher level of new construction inventory. That's to get our inventory up, that supply demand issue we talked about, due to persistent lack of resale inventory. Newly built homes available for sale accounted for 31% of homes available for sale in November, compared to the approximate 12% historical average. So we factually know that new builds are on the rise, and they've for the first time last year they met their average on how many new builds were required to be built. So the 2 points here with new builds, obviously number one, if there's more new builds, there's going to be more houses. That's going to increase the home sales, and then also the thought process is, a lot of builders, especially the bigger builders, are doing a lot of buy downs on interest rates. And so if that interest rate, going again back to part 1, is down in the 5s, the high 5s, mid 5 range level, and they're doing buy downs to the 4s, that goes back to the initial chart that we showed you when I opened up this part 2 here, that if somebody's sitting in a 3 or a 4, maybe they'll want to sell and get into a new build at a very similar or just a slight tick on the interest rate. So the new builds really get after both issues that we've been talking about, and that's how we believe a culmination of those two things, getting more sellers because the interest rate's it's projected to come down some. And again, this is not to create a frenzy. This is just going off of fact-based, data-driven information on kind of where we're at, and again, the 49-year average on how the housing market works. Again, getting more sellers in the market because the interest rates, the gap's not so big, and getting new builds in there. So that's a wrap on the second part of the 2024 projection, is the home sales going up and reaching over 5 million. We'll stop here on this episode, and we'll pick up on part 3 and talk about how we believe that the appreciation level is going to be more towards the normal 4.92% that it has been over the last 49 years. All right, thanks.